This clause requires all the personnel of the laboratory, either internal or external, that could influence the laboratory activities, shall act impartially, be competent, and work in accordance with the laboratory's management system. This clause comes from the ISO Casco Proc 33, which is a compulsory document for all Casco standards. That means in all the Casco standards, this clause will be included in the section of impartiality. But Working Group 44 think this clause is quite relevant to the personnel, so we take it from the section of impartiality to the section personnel. How to interpret it? External personnel for laboratory? I'm very sorry that I cannot give you a very good example on this. The laboratory should analyze the composition of the personnel involved in the laboratory activities. No matter how you define the internal or external personnel, the laboratory shall ensure all the personnel involved in the laboratory activities shall be competent, impartial, and follow all the requirements of the management system. The laboratory shall document the competence requirement for each function influencing the result of laboratory activities. But how to define the competence? Generally, we set up the competence requirements through establishing the requirements for education, qualification, training, technical knowledge, skill, and experience. You can say that the new version of 7225 simplified the requirements on training and deleted the requirements on policy and procedure for training. The laboratory shall ensure the personnel have the competence to perform laboratory activities for which they are responsible and to evaluate the significance of deviation. If deviation from the testing or calibration methods, the clause 7.2.1.7 has very specific requirements on this. Generally, the personnel shall perform their duties according to the management system, but under the unforeseen circumstance, if any deviation occurs, evaluation of significance should be conducted and ensure appropriate action has been taken. It's very important that laboratory to take appropriate actions to eliminate or control the negative influence. New version of 7225 deleted the notes related to personnel certification in some particular areas, such as NDT and the special requirements for the personnel who are responsible for opinions and interpretation. Based on the nature and scope of opinions and interpretations, the special experience in expertise or knowledge may be required for those persons who make such kind of opinions and interpretations. But it's not necessary to highlight this more in the new version 7225. What competence is needed for the personnel, the laboratory shall decide it based on the responsibility and the authorization of that person. The management of laboratory shall communicate to personnel their duties, responsibilities, and authorities. The new standards no longer emphasize to use the way of job description. The laboratory can adopt any ways to ensure the personnel know their duties, responsibilities, and authorities. So new standards are more flexible on this particular point. The laboratory shall have procedure for personnel management process and retain the relevant records. The first step that the laboratory shall take is to determine the competence requirement for each position, then select the appropriate persons. After employees some new staff, the laboratory shall provide training for them. The training will cover all the relevant requirements with the job he or she is going to take. On-job training is the most efficient way to let the new staff know the work process and the requirements. The staff in training cannot work independently and shall be supervised by an experienced staff. After a period of training, and the performance of the persons shall be evaluated by through the way of checking the records, arrange on-site witness, or checking the quality control data, and so on. If the performance is satisfactory, the laboratory may authorize this person to perform the specified work in a very formal way. After authorization, the laboratory shall monitor whether the competence of that person is maintained. The results of clause 7.7 ensuring the validity of result can reflect the performance of that person. But the laboratory can decide to take other ways to confirm the competence of the personnel, such as checking the records and arrange on-site witness in any way. The laboratory should authorize personnel to perform testing or calibration activities. If anyone is responsible for the following activities, authorization also needed. These activities including development, modification, verification, and validation of methods, analysis of results, report, review, and authorization of the results. I would like to invite attention to what's the meaning of analysis of results. In these standards, this include a statement of conformity and making the opinions and the interpretation. The requirements for authorization to operate equipment were deleted from the standards because once the laboratory authorized some person to perform any testing or calibration activities, the equipment used in those testing or calibration are also authorized at the same time. So it's not necessary to emphasize the authorization for the equipments.